Well, hello and welcome to another Faith, Philosophy and Life from me, Mr. Shelton. I hope that you're doing well. I hope your families are as well. Today we're starting a new unit thinking about forgiveness and crimes and punishment and things like that. And that's where we're going to go over this half term. We're going to be thinking a little bit more about some of the things that people might question, some of the things that people might make decisions and go down legal expertise. Now, I'm not going to bore you with a huge amount of legalism. You don't need to know that. But if you're interested in law, then can I just make it very clear to you that all of this fits perfectly. I once met a lawyer, a solicitor. Don't worry, it was in a professional capacity. They weren't out to get me. And we were chatting about how decisions were made in courts. And well, they taught me through this lesson, to be honest with you. So look at these pictures here for a moment. You've got a speed camera and you've got a man with a baseball bat or some sort of stick. Both of these are crimes. So my question is this: what would be a suitable punishment for these crimes? Have a think of that. What would be a suitable punishment for the crime? Here's our cheesy intro sequence. Okay, I wonder what you decided. Do you get points on the license? Do you fine the speeder? Or do you let them off? Or do you not allow them to drive anymore? Or do you say it depends on the severity? Is it a 30 zone and they're travelling at 70? Or is it like a motorway and they're travelling at 75 in a 70 zone? Would your punishment be different? And you've got this man with a stick. You don't know what's happening here. Are you assuming that he's the perpetrator? He's the person who's committing the crime? Or is he just trying to defend himself? Okay, and would you have a different response for either of those? So as always today, you're going to need to pause me when you are needing to pause me, and then you're needing to unpause me when you have done what you need to do. And then please photograph everything and send it through to your teachers. So our title today is What is Really Bad? What is really bad, apart from that title? Today we're going to explore why crime may occur and what the point of punishment is. It's going to be a good outcome, should say good, I'm not doing well here today, if you can give 3 reasons why crime and punishment exist. It's going to be great if you could explain some of the effects of crime and punishment, and even better if you could evaluate if all crime needs to be punished the same way. So our literacy skill today is key spellings, which I'm obviously not doing very well at, but we will do as we go through this lesson. And we're going to be reflective citizens as well. Why do we think what we do as citizens, and how does that make an impact? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at examples of crime. We're going to think about mind map, about why punish people, what you would do in some situations, reasons for punishment, and then there's a reflective question to end with as well. So here we are. Here are some crimes. Okay, they're not in any particular order. What I'd like you to do in your notes is to write them in the order that you think they go. So which is the worst crime at the top, down to the bottom, which is the least worst crime. Now, that's not to say that it's not a bad crime, but you might rank that differently. So do that now and just write those out in the order you think they go. Which is the worst crime at the top to which is the least worst crime at the bottom. And pause me while you do that. Okay, so now you've done that, what I'd like you to do is take the top and the bottom ones that you've chosen and write down how would you punish a person for doing that crime? How would you punish a person for doing that crime? Just write a couple of sentences for each of those explaining how you would punish that person. Okay, now, you might, for example, have said murder is the worst because it's the ending of a human life. But then, would you also say that child abuse is actually worse than murder because you're living with that afterwards? And would you punish a murderer different than someone who was committing child abuse? And a lot of that depends on why you would punish crime. So I want you to do a little T-table for me. On one side you're going to put crime, and one side you're going to put punishment. There's normally do this chatting in groups, so obviously if you want to pick up your phone and WhatsApp someone or FaceTime during this lesson, then feel free. And I'd like you to come up with a list of things about why you think crime should happen on one side and why you think punishment would happen on the other. So why does crime happen and why should punishment happen? So pause me now while you do that. See if you can come up with 3 or 4 things on each side and then come back to me. So I wonder if you got these. These are some reasons why crime may occur. So a crime is something that's actionable and wrong by law. It's a disobedience, Christians would say, that goes against the will of God. And people do crime for a variety of reasons. Most that commit crimes, if they don't get caught and punished, then they realise that it becomes habit forming as well. So obviously the idea of crime is to catch the person so they don't form a habit. So these are some reasons why crime may occur. Social pressures. People are encouraged to have lots of possessions. If you don't have these, write these down under your why do crime thing. So social pressures. Circumstances. Okay, some people are more likely to commit crimes if they're from an area of high unemployment, bad housing, or they're deprived. So if you've got a really hard time in life, then you're more likely to commit crime because you might steal, for example. That's not judging. That's not saying that, I mean, crime is wrong, obviously. And that's not saying that there are some circumstances that you could potentially argue that it's okay. Again, I'm not arguing that it is okay, but you can understand what I'm saying with that. So circumstances can lead to crime. You've got personal problems, okay? A difficult life can lead to crime. You could have revenge against individuals. You could have had a bad hand dealt to you, for want of another phrase. And lastly, greed. You might want something that other people have got, and the only way you can get that is to steal it from them. So those are 4 reasons why crimes may occur. What we're going to do now is I'm going to just go through a couple of situations, and what I'd like you to do in your notes is I'd like you to write down what you would do in that situation, or what you think should happen in that situation. So I'm going to read the first situation down. You don't need to write the situation down, you can just put situation 1, and then what you need to do is you need to write down what you think should happen in that situation. So here we are. Here's the first one. A woman is living by herself with 3 children. She spent all of her benefit money and has got no more access to any more money for 2 more days. She goes into a shop to steal some food. Okay, let me say that again. A woman is living by herself with 3 children. She spent all of her benefit money and will get no more money for 2 more days. She goes in a shop and steals some food. Okay, for tea, that is. So, question, what would you do? How would you punish that person? Would you punish that person? Just see what you can come up with. So pause me now and get a little response written. And then unpause me, and I'll give you the next situation. Okay, so the next one then. A man runs out from a pub and he's drunk and he runs straight in front of a passing car and gets run over. His legs get broken and he wants to sue the owner and the driver of the car for not being very careful. Okay, let me repeat the situation. A man runs out from a pub, he's drunk, and he runs straight in front of a passing car. He breaks his legs and he wants to sue the driver for not being careful. Should that be allowed? Is that something that is a crime? And how should there be a punishment if it is? So, give that a go. So pause me now, get a response written, and then come back to me. So, we said it would be good if you give 3 reasons why crime and punishment exist. And hopefully you've got quite a lengthy idea now in terms of crime anyway. And we're going to move on to punishment in a moment. So it'd be great if you could explain some of the effects of crime and punishment. And even better, if you could evaluate if all crimes need to be punished the same way. Where we were up to is we've done our mind map, or at least we've had a discussion. You did a table maybe. What would you do? We've had that, and now we're going to move on to thinking about reasons for punishment. So there are 4 main reasons for punishment. Again, go back to your table and write some notes down if you need to. I'm going to ask you to do a little bit more on these in a minute, so don't worry about defining these, because you are going to need to be doing that in a moment. So protection. If you want, what you do is you lock someone up for life to protect them or protect society from that person. So, for example, if you are a murderer, you may get locked up in life for life with no hope of being released. And if that's the case, then that occurs because the idea is that you're trying to protect society. So the punishment is to try and stop you from killing anyone else. And if you're a serial killer, then that is something that is quite a usual response to do. So if you're someone that's, let's say, rapes someone, terrible thing, and you lock them up for life in solitary confinement, which is where they don't have contact with anyone else, they're unable to do that crime anymore. So that's what protection is in this context. Deter. Deterrence is where you try and scare other people from committing the same crime because they know what will happen to them. So in some countries around the world today, and in Britain, we used to have this as a law, fortunately as a punishment, fortunately not anymore. If you stole something, you'd have your hand chopped off. So let's imagine for a moment that you're hungry and you want to steal something. You walk down the road, you see a one-handed man or one-handed woman, and then you suddenly think, I'm not going to steal actually because I don't want that to happen to me. That's what deterrence does. Deterrence is meant to be an overreaction, an over punishment, in order to scare other people from committing that crime. So in the case of America, where you can still have capital punishment or the death penalty, that's an idea of deterrence. It's meant to be something to scare people from committing that crime. So that's what deter means. Then you've got rehabilitate, which is to change the offender, or reform, as this is also known in the UK. Now this is where they try and change their behaviour so they can change their way of life. So let's imagine someone burgles people's houses because they've got a drug habit. They want to sell the things that they have burgled. What will happen if you reform punishment is you would get caught and you may get put in prison, but you will be put on a drug rehabilitation program. So when you come out of prison, you don't need drugs anymore, which means you don't need to steal anymore. That's what reform or rehabilitate does. It changes the person so they don't need to commit that crime anymore. And that's one reason for punishment. It's to try and adjust the way that that person lives. And lastly, revenge. And there are other reasons, but these are the main 4. Revenge, which is to get your own back. You'll know at school that if someone gets away with something and there's no punishment, you start thinking, I could have done that. I could have copied that piece of work. I could have done this. I could have done that. So actually one point of punishment is to get your own back, is to right a wrong, to make sure that other people know that there is a crime that's taken place and that has been dealt with. So those are our sort of 4 things that we're going to be thinking about at the moment. So we've got protection, deterrence, rehabilitate and revenge. What I'd like you to do is, I've now got them up on the screen behind me. What I'd like you to do is I'd now like you to write those 4 out and put the bits in black next to the bits in blue. So if you think to get your own back is protection, then you'd write protection to get your own back, and there's more than one in each one. So you'll need to pause me now while you do that, and then you'll need to come back to me. So have a look at that table there and just write them out in the order you think that they go. Pause me now. Okay, so I wonder what you got with that. So let's just double check that for you. So protection then is to make sure society is safe. So just the one with that. Then you've got deterrence, which links to put people off from committing the same crime. Then you've got rehabilitate, which is to change the criminal so they don't have to do the same thing again. And then you've got revenge, which is to get your own back. You could also have revenge as this is to show there's law in the land and people need to respect it. Obviously, you've got rehabilitate to change the criminal so they don't need to do the same thing again. So yeah, so there you go. Some of them are extra ones for other reasons that you may study at GCSE. Now, we're going to sort of just bring this together and close together our time. So we said it would be good if you give 3 reasons why crime and punishment exist. Great if you could explore some effects of crime and punishment, and even better if you could evaluate if all crimes need to be punished the same way. And that's really what we're going to end with here. So I've got a big evaluation question for you to end with, and it is this: punishment should try to change people. So this is basically saying reform is the best way of punishment. Do you agree? Give reasons or evidence for your answers showing more than one point of view. So you're going to do an argument for, an argument against, maybe a third point of view, and then your opinion. So I'm sure that your teachers have gone through how to do evaluation questions with you previously. I certainly have with my pupils. So you need an argument that agrees that punishment reform is the right thing to do, and maybe back that up with a bit of evidence, with an example of a crime. Then you're going to do a different reason for punishment. Why is that better and why is that more important than reform? Then you might come up with another reason. We looked at 4, so you can probably pull up a third, and then you need some sort of conclusion-y thing as well. This will take you to the rest of the lesson. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much for your time. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Wash hands. God bless you. And I'll be seeing you soon.